Welcome everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Bear Wallet Podcast. As you guys know, Bear Wallet Podcast is all about demystifying the topic of money and sharing powerful stories of people who beat the odds, whatever that might look like, and found financial success. Today on the line, we have my guy, Khari Blasingame. Khari is a scholar, he's an educator, he's an alumni of Vanderbilt husband, and he just so happens to be a running back for the Chicago Bears. Welcome, Shikari. Thinking of I'll cut that out. Khari, welcome, Khari.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, before we jump in, and I have so many different questions for you, let's start off with the icebreaker question. And that icebreaker question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever received, as it pertains to, finances, came from my dad when I was younger. When I started playing football, wanting to go to college, wanting to, go to the league, and we would just look at a lot of these different stories. And he said, if you don't know how to manage your own money, if you don't know how to manage it, you deserve to lose it. And so that always stuck with me. He always talked to me about like power of attorney. Like never sign your power of attorney over to anyone. Like keep control of your own assets, things like that. He was like, if you don't know where your money's going, if you don't know how to manage it yourself, you don't deserve to have it. So
Wow.
that always stuck with me when he said that. It was like, okay, I'm responsible for my own financial picture. And so when he said that, I was younger, didn't really make a lot of sense at the time, but that's something that's always echoed in my mind as I went to college and started getting those little college checks and then hit the league and things like that. So the best piece of advice would be if you can't manage your own money, you don't deserve that.
Man, that's so important. Yeah, my dad was the same way, where I was 10, 11 years old, and I was the baby boy of the family. I have all older sisters. And he said, listen, son, like, you have to learn how to make your own money because I won't be here one day. And I'm like, like there's no way. And 8 years later, he's gone, right? And I knew as a kid that he was telling me something that I needed to know. And I took that and I was mowing grass, I was shoveling walks, I was doing anything I possibly could do to make the money. And then also, he taught me how to save and make sure I put money away. And he's telling me all these things, not necessarily because he was actually doing it. He just knew that when he was younger, he wished he learned all that stuff. And, he wanted me to make sure I knew all that stuff before I raised my own family, and I had to take care of some little ones and take care of a wife and things like that. So yeah, very important. Know how to make your money, then also how to protect it, because if
Right.
you don't know how to protect it, let it be power of attorney or tax management, whatever it is, you will end up losing it.
Yeah.
So that's so key. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. Khari, let's kind of walk through you talked a little bit about your dad and what he's taught you. Walk me through your upbringing. Like, how did you view money growing up?
How did I view money growing up? Okay, so I'm gonna say this, and I hope it don't sound like a cliche, but I always looked at myself as some sort of like hustler. Like I always felt like I could make money. I would burn CDs for people in middle school off
Yeah.
LimeWire and sell them. I used to cut grass if it was only my grandmother's grass or something like that. Uh, but I always viewed it as a a tool, something to get and something to use. Uh, my mom and dad were always good with money, never frivolous with the spending, very conscientious with the saving and now understanding what they did, like with the investing in 401ks and things like that. So my outlook of it was always, I think it was a very positive relationship, and I'm blessed to be able to say that. I know a lot of people can't say that they've had the same relationship with money growing up. Uh, I was always taught that you had to work for money, though.
Mm.
My granddad, he's an entrepreneur, uh, brick mason, owns his own bricklaying company in Georgia. My other grandfather on my mother's side uh, owned a barbershop and got an agriculture degree from Alabama A&M. And so, he cut hair and, would work with his hands. So I always knew that if you wanted to, get money and provide, you got to work. Like you got to, go put the time in. You can't get something for nothing. So that I would say that was my relationship. You know, having two grandfathers who owned businesses and a dad who was very worked hard, was very conscientious about money and investing. So I think I had a very positive outlook and a very solid foundation to start on with my own understanding of money.
Nice. Yeah, no, I kind of feel the same way. Like we didn't have much money, but my dad was he never was the type that wanted to have brand name things. Like he didn't really care to show off. Like for him, he said, "Hey, like it's better to show that you don't have any money and be happy versus be unhappy and show off all the money that you're making." So even now, like I don't really care for brand names. Like, of course, there's little things out there that I'm like, oh, that could be great if I had those.
Right.
But otherwise, I don't really put I don't really care for buying luxury items. One day into the future, of course, but as of right now, I don't really care for it. And I think that has helped me pay off debt and also invest my money into things that I
Right.
really want. Awesome. So, like in high school, so you go throughout high school. Like, how did you know that you wanted to go to Vanderbilt?
Uh, this is gonna sound weird, but like I went to a camp in 11th grade, and we were sitting in the stadium, and the coach at the time's name was James Franklin, and
James Franklin.
yeah,
We
James
are
Franklin,
Penn
Penn
State.
State,
We
yes
stole them from
sir,
you.
yeah, man.
James Franklin, if you're listening to this, man, like keep doing a great job.
So yeah, man, I was getting recruited by a couple of schools, and we went to camp. I think it was my 11th grade year, and we were sitting in the stadium. They were redoing. I remember it very vividly. They were redoing the turf
Mm,
uh, in the stadium. Like I think they had grass and they were doing the turf. And I remember just sitting there, and I looked at my dad. I was like, "Yeah, I want to play. I want to play here." I didn't really know anything about the school, like the academics. I knew it was in the SEC, which was great, and they were doing well at the time. Uh, but
amazing
yeah,
school.
so when I figured out about like the school aspect of it, because at first I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be pre-med.
Mm,
So when I figured out about the school aspect, and then I finally got the offer when Coach Mason came on board after Franklin left, it was just kind of like a no-brainer. I had committed to Minnesota at the time, committed in 2013,
another great
uh,
school.
December. Yeah, it was a great academic school. They had a great coach, uh, Jerry Kill, Coach Kill, and then Coach Sawville were up there that was recruiting me. But like when I got the offer from Vanderbilt, like it's 2 hours away. My grandmother wasn't gonna let me go 15 hours to Minnesota. So uh, yeah, man, it was just kind of a feeling I got in 11th grade. And I was like, yeah, this is where I'm gonna play football,
Mm.
and just kind of kept going until I got the offer and I got it. And I was like, okay, boom, this is what we're gonna do.
Wow, wow. No, I understand the appeal of going to college right near your high school, right near where you're from.
Yeah,
I look to a couple different schools all across the country, and I ended up choosing Penn State, which was an hour away from my hometown. And it's great because your family can come up if you're far away where they don't really know what you're doing. But at the same time, on Sunday, if you are struggling to eat, you can head back home. Um, so I thought that was really important. And then also looking out of state, for me at least, going out of state was really, really expensive. And as soon as they told me how much that was compared to being in state, I was like, oh, that's a no brainer.
yeah,
So at first I didn't know if I wanted to go to Penn State, but once I set foot on campus, I was like, okay, this is me. I can see myself being here. That's awesome. So you go, you're on campus, you're obviously playing for the team. How was that experience? Like, how was that first year of being in college? Um,
one of the hardest things ever. You
yeah.
know, acclimating to the physicality of not even the physicality, but like the physical demand. Let's say the physical demand of college football, and then the academic demand. Like I was lucky because I had AP classes coming in, so
Mhm.
with that, like it wasn't that much of a demand on me in the summer, so I could kind of slow play it. I took like a little sociology class, but
Mhm.
like the physical demands, like the running, the lifting, like I was just gassed. I had like up until that point, I was like, man, I work hard. I go to my high school. I lift. I do things in the morning on my own before school. Like I'm getting it in. I already work hard. I'm good, but that physical demand, Man, I remember it was after one of the like morning Friday finisher running sessions. I sat in my locker and I was like, man, because like I had a academic scholarship to Tuskegee. And some of
Mm.
my friends went down there.
Tuskegee. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
my uncle teaches there. So uncle, if you're listening, shout out to Tuskegee and
And shout
also
out
the
to Mother
HB.
Tuskegee, man.
Yeah, shout out to just the HBCUs in general, man. Like you
Facts.
mentioned Alabama A&M, just so important. So support Black colleges and universities.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we'll keep going.
But yeah, man. So I was like, man, I should have. It was a thought. Like I never acted on it, but I was like, man, I should have took that academic scholarship. And, just been kicking it. But it was just a hard day. But
Mhm.
that feeling didn't last. But that was probably the hardest part. I never really dealt with homesickness, like you said. I mean, I was on 2 hours away, so that was cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
how was it balancing um, just the academic rigor of being in in Vanderbilt, also just having a social life, and then also playing football. Like how is that balance? Like I often looked at college athletes, especially at Penn State. I'm like, how do you even do it?
I really can't even take no credit for this part, for the balance part of it, because I really just feel like my parents and my grandmother, like they just did a great job, like instilling in me early that academics was like the first thing, right? So like there was just no other option. Like I knew I couldn't go to college and like slack off on my grades and everything would just be cool.
Mhm.
So like I don't know, like it really wasn't terrible. I mean, there were some long nights as far as like studying and stuff, but I mean, that would have happened if I wasn't playing ball anyway. And I feel like I just loved the game so much, and I loved like being in the locker room with the homies and working out. Like it was just kind of like it never really felt like a burden. Like it never
Mhm.
really felt like a burden at the time. Like it was hard at times, but like I had fun doing it. So it's like I really don't feel like that balance was hard. So
Right.
I really am blessed to be able to say that.
Yeah, it's all about knowing what matters first, right? It's all about
Right.
prioritization. Because
Right.
even for me, I mean, the first year was tough. I mean, I went from a small high school to a big high school or a big college, and it was tough because I went from graduating with 100 people to being on campus with 60,000. A small town kid going to a bigger college. Um, but to your point, academics come first, and it's
Right.
always been that way. Even in high school, my family was really big on like, every evening, if you're not going to practice, you're going to be studying, and if you're not studying, you're going to be at practice. And then I wasn't allowed actually to go out after school. That was like something my parents had. So, as a kid, and my friends would be outside, having fun. And my mom and dad would say, no, you have to stay in. You need to study. And if you're not studying, you need to be at practice. If you're not at practice, you need to be asleep. You need to be eating dinner. You need to be taking a shower, getting ready for bed.
Yeah,
And
that
nine
sounds
o'clock,
about
lights
right.
out, and that was it. And wake up in the morning and do it all over again. And I remember as a kid, um, I used to think, man, like my parents are mean. Like, I can't believe they did that. But they were preparing me because
Right.
the only thing that was outside at 4 o'clock on in the afternoon in my hometown was the D boys. It was people that are doing the wrong things, and they were trying to protect me, and I'm very appreciative of that. But yeah, they always prioritize education. So the transition from high school to college, it was natural because
Yeah.
besides like the coursework and all that stuff, which really kicked my ass, it was really the
Mine
fact that I
too.
needed to,
Mine
yeah,
too.
you have to prioritize all that. You have
Yeah.
to prioritize the education, and the social stuff will come later.
Right.
So luckily that helped me to kind of get a job after school. So
And it's
kind
like
of
you
talk,
said, like it's also like it's about the system that was around you too, right? Like
right.
so the first year was hard. Like, it was hard for me. Like I took an econ class, it was hard, but like the system was right, like just like your system was like,
Hmm.
okay, I go to class, I study, I do my best, and then the other things happen after that. Like it was the system that your parents were like, same thing with money, like it has to be a system in place to
Right.
be able to like help you sustain through like transitions, because the transition to college is hard. The coursework is harder, the tests are harder, and you have less time to be as good at it as you do in college.
Right.
as you do in high school. And then, like you said, you want to have a social life. You want to. I wanted to do well at football. But it was all about the system. Like you had to have a system around you, like to be able to be like, okay, at this time I'm studying, at this time I'm football, at this time I'm sleeping, nutrition, and then at this
Mhm.
time I can go have some fun and be with my homies and parlay and do things like that. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And you bring up a good word, and one that, completely changed my life is, just the word system, and knowing that everything in life is a system. Like there is a game that's being played, let it be corporate America, let it be college, or just running your business. There's a series of steps that you need to take in order to master the system. And then once you understand what those steps are, then it becomes much easier, because
yep,
first year in college I didn't know what the system was, right? Like I didn't
mhm,
know of anyone that went to, Penn State main campus, right? So I was there by myself, and the first year was just learning. Got my ass kicked, asked a lot of questions, talked to professors and TAs, teacher assistants all the time, just trying to understand it. So once you understand that, then sophomore year was a breeze, junior year, senior year was a breeze. And
coast.
even when I went to the corporate world, the first year kicked my ass, but then you learn the system. Okay, who do I need to talk to? How do I get promoted? What are you looking for? You know, how do you guys measure performance? And then when you understand that system, then it's coasting. So, kind of explain to me, like, so you were in college, obviously football went well. Talk to me about the transition from college to just being in the professional world, which for you is with the NFL.
So that transition, I mean, it's I've been in it 3 years. I'm going on year four, and I mean it's been fast. And so when I look back at it, it's like everything moves so fast. So I was undrafted, and then I got signed as an undrafted free agent to Minnesota. That was like the fastest 5 minutes of my life.
Bro, kudos
Uh,
to you on that. Because, I mean, just going undrafted and then getting that roster spot is, I'm sure it's not easy at all.
it wasn't,
Mentally
but
and
I was
physically.
blessed though. I was blessed. I was in a good situation.
Mhm.
Uh, I went to Minnesota. They had a great coach. Kennedy Palomalu was the running backs coach, and then the veteran that I was behind, like I was learning from, his name is CJ Ham, and he was I mean, he mentored me. He gave me all the keys, like how to take care of your body, like just the system for how you be a good fullback in the
Mhm.
NFL. Like I saw what he did, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take what he's doing and like kind of make it my own because like he was solid and he coached me up. So I was blessed to be in a situation where I had an older guy who was my teammate giving me game, and then an older guy was my coach, like my position coach was giving me mad game. So like it was hard, but I was in a really good situation. So yeah, man, that was like the fastest 5 minutes of my life because you got teams calling, they want to offer you something you've never heard these type of numbers. Well, I mean, maybe you've heard them, but like never thought like, okay, somebody's going to give me $10,000. This person's going to give
Mhm.
me 15. And it's so it feels really cool. It's a moment you just want to take in. So that's fast. Then you go up there to camp, and it's just like the transition from high school to college, right? You get your ass kicked, and that's fast, and you're just trying to survive and like do your best. And then I ended up getting cut in September. I made the practice squad. So I was on the practice squad for 10 weeks. And then the Tennessee Titans, they had their fullback had got hurt. So there was an opportunity for me to go play. And I went and played for 3 years. And that 3 years has been like the from my rookie season to my last season with them, that was a whole, journey in itself, man. So that transition is really the same from high school to college, but it's faster, it's more intense. And I feel like if you blink, you miss something, because it's
Right.
just moving so fast.
Yeah, and you're kind of talk about, the transition, and you're being offered crazy numbers, right? I mean, crazy in the form of like you've probably have never
Crazy
seen
to
them before,
me. Yeah.
right? Like crazy for me as well. um, because I remember when I first joined Vanguard, they wanted to pay me a salary of like 55,000, right? Like for me right now, I'm just like, okay, like 55,000, but like for just kind of thinking about my upbringing, my mom and dad together made $60,000. And no one I knew made more than, let's say, 30, 40,000 because I come from a really poor town. So I went to Vanguard and they said, "Oh, 55." I'm like, "What? I'm rich now." Right? In my head, I'm rich. Um, and I found myself going and, paying for things I shouldn't have paid for, going out to restaurants, buying people shots, whatever. I'm like, I have the bread. This is before budgeting. This is way before Better Wallet and all that stuff. So I messed up my money early on, and I was $80,000 in debt at the time, and I found myself living paycheck to paycheck because of that mental shift where I'm like, okay, I'm making this money. So like, how was that, right? So like, the audience probably wants to know, like, you're in the pros and you're now making this money. This money's flowing in. Like, how did you go about managing all of that?
I would say I went about managing all of it from a state of fear at first. So
Yeah.
like when I first got on the practice squad and those first few weeks started rolling in, like getting those consistent checks, I was like, wow, like I'm getting this money. But I knew in February or January, whenever season was over, like I knew at a certain point I was gonna stop getting it. And I also knew that there are some guys who will play 1 or 2 years and be done. So and at that time I was still in grad school. So I was looking at my monthly, what I was spending, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna save this in cash. And so if I get cut and if I'm no longer on the team, I have 6 months. Or it's like, oh, now I have 12 months. Now I have 18 months. I'm good. I just wanted to save my monthly expenses in cash. I
Hmm.
had no like I knew about investing because like my pops would talk about it with the family, would talk about it with me and my sister. Like I had an idea about it, but I just ain't had the stones yet to be putting my money in the market because I just didn't know what the next 3 or 4 years looked like.
Right. And we're not necessarily taught that, where we're from. Like, no one's sitting down and saying, okay, here's proper asset allocation, right?
Right,
Like, they're not
right.
talking about that kind of stuff. So for me, I didn't really learn that until I got to Vanguard, where, of course, like they sat down and talked to you about the importance of just diversifying your money. So you have these paychecks rolling through, and for the audience, like, what does that schedule look like when, so you get paid throughout the season, and then when summer comes around, or I guess spring comes around, like, they completely cut off and you have to be able to manage the money you made throughout the season. What does it look like?
So it's changed. So when I first got into the league, you got paid 2 game checks every 2 weeks. So you play a week, you wouldn't get paid. The next week you play another week, you get paid for those 2 weeks. And so at the end of the season, you stop getting checks. No
Mm,
more checks coming in.
wow.
So that was the 2019 and the 2020 season. This 2021 season, uh, there's a new CBA, and they're paying it out over 35 weeks, which I didn't like at first because I had just gotten into investing heavy. I'm like, I want all my money to invest right now,
Right.
but it's a lot better being in the off season and
Hmm.
still knowing like, okay, I got I got 17 more checks coming because we just
Hmm.
paid 17 games. I got 17 more checks coming. That's gonna sustain me through the offseason. Like I don't have to pay myself from a savings account. So I can work a plan as if I'm getting a steady paycheck and investing and not just looking at this money over here thinking I have more than I have because this is honestly just it's money that's needs to be going towards expenses.
Right.
So I like that a lot better, and that's how it is now. You get paid over a 35 week pay period, or maybe it's 36. Uh, and yeah, they just pay you a half of your check every week, half of your
Mm,
what would be a game check every week, and they spread it out. And so the last paycheck we got was in like May something.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. Now you have to be able to kind of manage that throughout well, do you still get paid during the summer? So 36 weeks,
So
does it cut
so
off towards the end?
it's already cut off. So it's cut off.
Okay, got it.
There's no more coming in until the start of the next season. So there's about a
Wow.
3 to 4 month period. What is it now? It's June the 3rd. So
Hmm.
June, July, August. So about 3 months until you
Got it.
get in your next
Okay.
real game paycheck. But you
So
get some
that's
you
the
get some
window.
checks for like camp and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So you have a, that window of, like, pretty much the summertime, where you're not necessarily getting paid. So you talked about, like, investing and wanting to invest more. Like, how did you start investing? You're in school. They, of course, they don't teach you about investing in school. You go into the NFL. Like, how did you start investing your money? Like,
I
what steps
started.
did you take to learn?
So I started investing. My pops was real persistent. He was always telling me and my sister about VOO and the S&P and things the things that could do for you. And so we got to 2020, and I had a little bit, like a little bit of my money in the market, and I started off with a TD Ameritrade account. I had bought some VOO. I bought some other little stocks, nothing too like sophisticated. And I didn't really have a true system, like a true plan. I just ended up buying it. I was like, okay, I got this money on the side. I won't need this. I'm gonna invest this. And then I was really into like the crypto space. Not really into it, but like it was just really intriguing. So I was like looking at it. I saw a lot of people making money on it. And so when the market tanked in 2020, I think it was March.
Yep.
It was March of 2020.
Yeah,
My
March.
pops was just telling me like, look, man, you need to get into the market. And I was like, nah, this pandemic finna happen. Stocks is finna go down. So I'm gonna wait. And so when stocks went down and crypto kind of hit a rise, I kind of felt vindicated. Like, see, I was right. I pegged it. I knew what was gonna happen. And then a year later, I'm looking at like VOO. I'm looking at the S&P. I'm like, damn, I just missed all of this.
Yeah, and for the listeners, sorry to cut you off. VOO, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, one of the most popular, if not the most popular ETF, maybe right behind QQQ, the tech ETF, but very popular Vanguard ETF. So sorry to cut you off. Go for
Yeah,
it.
no. I appreciate you clearing that up. But yeah, man. So I missed. I wouldn't say I missed all of it, but I missed a good amount of it. You know, so I got in kind of like halfway through the run up, so I didn't get to catch that nice like lowest point. I wasn't dollar cost averaging. I wasn't, so I didn't get to catch that. But yeah, man. So I missed that, and then I got with an advisor at Edward Jones, and I started putting a substantial amount of money at Edward Jones, a guy that I like, good guy, really trusted. And I still trust him. I think he does a good job, right? Within the parameters of his job. Not trying to come at anybody on a large platform. But I ended up getting hurt this past season. And I was out for 4 weeks, came back in the 5th week. And during that 4 weeks, like a lot of anxiety about like, okay, how much money do we have? How long is it gonna last? What is it gonna take to get to that fire number? Right, I can't even think of the acronym.
Financially independent, retire early, baby.
Yes, sir. Financially independent, retire early. So like, what is it gonna take me to get to that number? Right. With the house and things that's what we have right now.
And for the audience, financially independent, retire early. You guys probably heard of FIRE, but what that means is, what is that number, that round number you need to get to in order for you to live off that money for the rest of your life, right? So like there's a certain number. A lot of people say, hey, like retirement is an age. People say it's 60. Some people say 59 and a half. Some people say 65. You might have heard me say a lot of times age, it's actually a number, right? So once you hit that number, let it be $1 million, the interest, aka the gains that you're getting from that amount of money, can essentially pay you for the rest of your life, pay for your living expenses. And they call that your FIRE number, financially independent, retire early. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's perfect, man.
Yeah.
But so I was looking at that, and I kept hearing my dad's voice. If you can't manage your own money, you don't deserve to have it. If you can't manage your own money, you don't deserve to keep it, So I started, I found Jeremy Schneider.
Jeremy, Personal Finance Club. Shout out to Jeremy.
Personal Finance. I found him, took his course, because I was reading a lot of the stuff that I was in. It was like a bunch of different mutual funds, and there was some VOO in the portfolio, and so I just started looking at it and looking at like the expense ratios and things like that. And I didn't really understand it all, so I took his course, right, and that gave me a better understanding of investing, right. And then I was like, okay, so how much do I need to keep in cash, and how much do I need to invest, and what should I be spending on a car? what should I be spending on the house? Things that I would usually ask my dad. I would just call and be like, hey, what's a good price? Like, what do you think is reasonable? And I just kind of talk through things with him, and he would kind of answer it, but be like, I can't tell you what to do. You're grown, make your own decisions. So I just keep looking. And then I found your podcast, not your podcast. I found your course, and I
Mm,
took your course, and you gave like the checklist, right, of
mm,
what you need to have before you can start really being invested. Like how much is good to spend on a car or on a house. And bro, when I tell you that, like that gave me the playbook for what I'm doing, like for our family's finances. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just a really clear picture of like, okay, if I stay within these parameters, I'm pretty healthy,
yeah,
right? If
that's good
I'm
to
if
hear.
I'm not overspending on this car, I'm pretty healthy. Uh, uh, if I'm not over leveraged on this house, I'm pretty healthy. If I have 3 to 6 months, I'm pretty healthy.
Hmm.
And then when it comes to investment, like just hearing it again in your course and understanding the different techniques of investing has really helped me to be able to say, okay, I can save money. I can do this myself as far as asset allocation goes. If I
Hmm.
just keep my eye on it, let it ride, have the proper time horizon, like everything's gonna be cool. Like I don't need to pay somebody 1% to like put my put my investments on autopilot. Like I can do that with
Right.
Fidelity or Vanguard. So yeah, I would say that was the path. Like that was the escalation of how I got here to where I'm like, okay, I can invest my own money. I can manage my family's, me
Yeah.
and my wife's finances without anxiety.
Yeah, that's so key because I think there's so many folks out there that are, so many people out there that believe that they need a financial advisor, they need to pay that 1%. And as a past financial advisor, I know that's not true. Of course, there are people, financial advisors have their own space in the market, but financial advisors should not be they shouldn't be used just because you don't want to understand how to manage your finances, right?
Correct.
So there's that intermediary between not knowing what you're doing and having a financial advisor, and I want to kind of close that gap. So I'm happy that my course, as well as Jeremy's course, really helped to kind of close that gap as much as we could. Um, because you can learn. There's so many people
Yeah.
that can learn, and it's not rocket science. It really
Right.
comes to some basics that you have to understand, and you have to know how it connects to the broader world. But then after that, once you understand the psychology of things and where to put your money, because no one actually teaches you that stuff, then you're normally, you're set up properly in what I call being financially bulletproof. So I'm happy that the course helped out. I'm happy the checklist helped out as well.
It definitely
Um,
did. And I think another thing that your course did, and this is not to talk bad about Jeremy's course because I really like this course, and so you can edit this out and clip that up. But I think that yours gives like a little bit more detailed approach, right? So like if I get a playbook and it says, all right, run outside zone, you know, it's like, okay, cool. Put my money on autopilot. I can run outside zone. I can get a target date index fund. Okay, cool. Right. But like then you get the details. Okay, it's like, okay, where's my aiming point? Who am I blocking? Who's blocking who in this situation? In what situations does this plan break down? You know what I'm
mm,
saying? I feel like those things help you be more detailed and help you be a true, like, I guess you could say, expert of your own personal finances. And so I think that's
right.
where, like, finding your course took that level of competence to like another level, you know?
Good to hear. Yeah, because even at the end of module number 4, you might remember module number 4. I kind of go through just my own investment philosophy, where I'm taking exactly what I told you in all of module number 4 about investing and saying, okay, well, here are the situations where you want to be on top of your game. Here's what it means when the market's going down. Like long term investing is key, fees will kill you, like all these type of tips that I wish I knew early on. And it would have put me in the market even faster. It would have kept me in the market the days that I wanted to sell out. But yeah, I like that the course is well rounded, and anyone can join, let it be a beginner or someone who's intermediate or advanced. And I can almost promise you're going to learn something. But this, the way I wanted to approach a course is, from an advisor teaching someone that didn't really know all too much. So I'm happy that it provided, some value. And so cool, awesome. So that's how you went about learning about investing. So you're putting money into the market. I'm kind of curious, kind of thinking about some of your peers in the NFL, like how do they feel about investing? How do they feel about money and money management in general? Are they are they
I
doing
think I
well?
think
Are they
guys are
struggling?
I think guys are into it. I think
Yeah,
guys
good.
understand that, you know, the whole message of NFL stands for not for long. I feel like guys, when they get into it, they start to see it and they understand, okay, I might not have that 10-year career, right?
Mhm.
So I feel like a lot of guys are into it, but a lot of guys have their different things that they like to do. Like some guys are way more real estate heavy
Mm,
and they don't really want to play the stock game.
yeah,
Uh, some guys, have advisors and lean on advisors heavy for the things that they do. Some guys are really into crypto. Uh, I just think it's all their personal balance, but I definitely think guys are tuning more in, they're tapping more into their finances because they don't want to be on the other side of this league thing and be like, dang, I missed the opportunity when I had a lot of money in my pocket to invest and see this growth that the market is doing. So I feel like a lot of guys are taking more control and more responsibility for their finances now because
man,
there's a
that
lot more education around it.
right. That warms my heart, man, because you often hear all the time, hey, like NFL player made all this money throughout his career, didn't invest. On the other side, the NFL, they didn't have the bread anymore, and it's just like what happened, right? I talk a lot in the course about just lifestyle creep and like how that could really impact your entire life and impact your entire finances. For anyone who doesn't know what lifestyle creep is, lifestyle creep, lifestyle inflation, that means when you make more money you spend more money, and people who tend to make the most money often fall victim to that because they say, oh, like I got it, I'm going to just go and pay for it. But what the rich do is they try to do what they call widen the gap, where they make more money and they spend less, right? They want to find efficiencies in how they spend their money. That way they can invest the difference. To Khari's point, going and buying real estate, stock, whatever you like, and then learning how to invest the right way so you can keep it forever.
Right.
But I'm happy that they're warming up to the idea, and they're getting into the market and they're learning as much as they can, even if they feel like they're not truly competent in that area. The best way to learn is to fail. And they might lose some money here and there, but as they go, they're going to learn what they can and cannot do. So that's good to hear. As you kind of think about like your wealth for your family, you're in the NFL. Like how do you plan on keeping this money forever? I know you mentioned investing. I'm sure you're looking at real estate now that you're in Chicago, which is a good market. Like how do you plan on keeping your money forever?
Learning and
Yeah,
adapting with the time. I feel like it would be easy to be like, okay, I got this information. S&P does 10% over 50 years. I'm just gonna throw it in there and chill. I'm gonna get some real estate, get some tenants. But I
hmm
think the way I would do that is learning. Like just continue to learn. Uh,
being a lifetime student, I think
yeah,
that's the key.
but I would
Um,
say continuing to learn about like asset allocation and like continuing to be conscious of what me and my wife do with our money and how we spend it, learning about foundations and trust, things like
mhm,
that. Um, so to answer your question, I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know what it looks like keeping it forever because, like I mentioned earlier, like crypto is coming up, and even though it's still highly speculative, I mean, there's a lot of people who think it's here to stay. And so just continuing to learn about what that looks like in terms of a family, you know, asset umbrella and what
mhm,
gets pat and what can I use into retirement? what can I pass on down to children or to family members? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I guess to answer your question, I would say I don't know. I
Yeah.
think maybe that's a question for you. Like, what would you say to somebody like me? Like, how would you tell me to keep my money forever?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I mean, you hit it right on the head. Like, you want to be a full time learner. You want to, because even I mean, I have the credentials, but there are things that I learn every day where I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know you can structure a trust this way, or this is how you can keep your money. So I would say, the fact that you're making it and it seems like you're able to manage your overall expenses properly. I mean, that goes a long way, and that's really the base of everything. Then you want to start thinking about what areas can I invest my money, let it be like Roth IRAs or like Roth IRAs. You mentioned trust. There's other tax advantage accounts, so that way you're not losing money to the man, right? Like, you're not losing that money to Uncle Sam, because being in a high income, he's coming after you. He's trying to make sure he's getting his part. So I would say continue to educate yourself, continue to look at tax advantage accounts, continue to look at real estate, because those are ways that the rich tend to, kind of escape some of those taxes legally. And then, keep focusing on asset allocation too, right? So, like, over time, you'll realize, hey, like, maybe I shouldn't be as much as in crypto. Maybe I shouldn't be as much as in, real estate. Maybe I should allocate to stocks, maybe even bonds, like, into the future, short-term reserves, and just making sure you have the appropriate asset allocation for you and your wife. 'Cause I think oftentimes people kind of chase whatever the security is or whatever the investment is that tends to do well in past history. But what you want to focus on is, like, what's going to help me to get to where I need to get to, what's going to help me to reach my goals without taking on all the risk that I might not need to take on to reach my retirement goal or my fire goal, whatever it might be. Um, because again, I mean, that's why I see all too often people take on undue risk, and then they find themselves kind of dealing with the volatility or frankly losing it all, because they didn't effectively think about the risk management. I mean, the
Right,
perfect example of what happened, not too long ago with Luna. One of
right,
my friends told me, "Hey, like, I'm gonna put all." I've been talking about putting money into the market forever. He eventually did it, but he ended up just jumping into Luna, and I said, "That's not what I told you to do." He jumped into Luna, and he lost a big sum of his money, and he came to me and said, "Hey, like, how do I get it back?" And I was just like, "You gotta hope." And this is the reason why I do what I do, because I want to make sure people are, number one, investing their money. I'm happy he's investing, period. Um, Number two, you want to make sure that you're not taking on too much risk, because you never know what that investment could do. And it's not just crypto; it could be, highly leveraged, risky real estate that you can go into. You don't know where the market's going to go. Um, it could be on, like, different projects. Some people, say, hey, like, I'm making this money, I'm going to go into these businesses that may or may not do well, and they end up becoming over levered or end up putting too much money into it. And you have to be careful. You really have to assess how much risk are you taking on, and how is that going to help you reach your goal. And if you're taking on too much undue risk, then you have to really reevaluate that. So that's my long-winded answer to your question: tax management, risk management, asset allocation, um, and yeah, just continuing to learn, continuing to grind, continue to make mistakes while you can,
yeah,
and then that will make you an even better investor.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that because that's one of the things that kind of slips me sometimes is risk management. Like
Mm.
I'm looking at, dang, if I put this here and it works, it's golden.
Right.
But we're not often thinking about what if it doesn't work. Like my wife, she's good at thinking about, well, what if it doesn't? Like, is that a risk we really need to take?
Right. Yeah.
And
I mean,
it,
that's spot on. And as an
yeah,
advisor, I would often have those type of conversations with people where they would say, okay, well, the market on average provides 10% historically, annually, right? and they would say, I want 20%. And I'm like, well, you can get 20%, but are you happy that you're, I think the way Vanguard would put it, they would say, like, what is your chance of success? Like, is it 95%? Is it 98% that you're going to reach your goal within your time frame by taking on the risk that you're taking on right now? If your chances are high, then it becomes undue risk when you say, okay, well, I want to take on more risk because I want to have more money, even though it might, I might go over my goal. But what people don't realize is that you could go under your goal significantly if you take on that undue risk. I
Right.
think crypto, again, like, not to harp on crypto, and I'm not a crypto hater at all. I just think that you want to make sure that you have a balance between that and like the S&P, and investing across the market and becoming diversified. My challenge with crypto is that people really believe that it only goes up, right? Like,
Yeah.
people don't realize that if you are getting 40% in crypto or any investment, like, let me get off of crypto, any investment, if it can go up 40%, it can dip 40%,
Right.
right? People forget about the bottom, and likely the bottom is going to happen, right? Like, you're going to see that before you see it go up. So you kind of have to understand those swings that could happen. And for me, I'm more of a conservative, moderately aggressive type of investor. I'm cool with 12, 13%, 10% annually. I don't want to take on anymore because I know that's going to help me to reach my goal, and I don't need to take on any undue risk.
Yeah.
um so cool. No, that's awesome, man. Like, as you're kind of thinking about, I know you mentioned NFL, it what does it stand for? And not for long, right? People say that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you're already planning and thinking about, like, what is next for you and your family. What is next for Khari? Like, what do you see after the NFL?
That's a great question, man. And I have thought about it, but as far as the planning stage, I haven't really planned too well.
You're a busy
Uh,
guy.
so I got my degree from Vanderbilt, my master's in leadership and organizational performance, and a
Nice.
lot of those courses that we took were kind of like consulting cases. We did a lot of case studies, things like that. So that was really cool. A lot of like executive coaching work and how to do that. So that was really cool. So I think, an option would be to get into consulting, maybe do that for a couple years, see if I like it, see if I can learn something from that business, and
Mhm.
then pivot and create my own business in
There you
the
go.
in the financial world. I don't know what that looks like right now. I know I really like finances and help and talking about it and helping people with it. Like being able to send your course to friends and like talk to my friends about it. Like that's been a really cool thing that came out of me being on the IR last year. Like being able
Mhm.
to have this like knowledge to spread and help my friends and see my friends start to tell me they're maxing out their 403b in this case or a Roth IRA and things like that. So I think I might eventually want to get into like the financial planning business. I do want to eventually get my CFP.
Mhm.
So
Love it.
so I don't know. There's a lot of different things that I think I want to do.
Yeah.
Whether that's walk into somebody else's corporation and provide value there, or create my own and provide value there. So I really don't know,
Yeah.
but uh, I'm not just gonna stop. I'm not just gonna sit down and hope
Yes,
my
sir.
investments take me there. I'm gonna try to get into another hustle, get into another game, and see if I can play that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate the fact that with your busy schedule, you have a lot going on, from your profession to being a husband, everything else you have going on. I mean, the fact that you're taking time out of your day to say, hey, like, I learned this, I'm going to teach my fellow brother the same thing. I think that's so important. And, my mantra is, like, lift as you climb. As you learn, you want to teach others. And that's the way that we're going to go about demystifying the topic of finance for all types of, different communities. So kudos to you. I tip my hat to you,
I
because I
appreciate you, man.
know, I know how important that is. And I know that you're really just taking the time out of your day to make sure the world's a better place. So, in closing, man, like, how can people find you online? How can they connect with you online? What other projects do you have going on?
So right now they can just find me on Twitter at Khari Blasingame, on Instagram at KB_23. Spell out the 23. Those are really only the two social medias that I use right now. Uh, Trying to learn TikTok,
Yeah, man.
but
TikTok is
not
tough.
trying not to get too addicted to it. I know it's very addicted to.
Yes, sir.
So that's where they can find me. And as far as right now, man, I'm really just sticking to the main thing, keeping football
Hmm.
at the forefront. I'm trying to learn as much as I can with this, and uh, yeah, so nothing really except the season coming up, man.
I hear you.
But that's
My
where they can
man's
find me.
focused.
Yes, sir. Got to lock in. Got to lock in. Got to keep the main thing. But that's where they can find me at Card Blasting Game. Just my name on Twitter, and then KB_23 on
Man,
Instagram.
I appreciate you coming on and teaching the audience a little bit about what your life is all about. Just a little bit of a glimpse into the NFL and like what you guys have to go through, and then how to manage your money and how to get started. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the football field, most importantly, but eventually becoming an executive, let it be for your own firm, which I think you can definitely do, and then or even working for a company because I think you'll go far.
I
So
appreciate you saying that, man.
in closing, guys, you guys know where to find them, and thank you for joining another episode of the Bear Wallet podcast. And with that, I'm out.
See you, man.